Most nights you wake up at 3 a.m. with a cramp seizing through your calf. You already know what you're going to do. You stand up, you hobble, you stretch it out. What you probably don't know is what that cramp is actually telling you, and why your doctor has almost certainly never tested for it. Because the mineral most likely behind your nighttime leg cramps after 50 is not the one on the label of every supplement you've already tried. It's the one your standard blood panel can miss entirely, even when you're significantly depleted. And when that deficiency goes uncorrected long enough, the cramp stops being the main problem. The falls, the disrupted sleep, the irregular heartbeat, those become the main problem. That connection is what most people never get explained to them, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. 3 in the morning. A sharp, seizing pain grabs the back of your calf and yanks you out of sleep like someone reached into your leg and pulled a wire tight. 3 in the morning. A sharp, seizing pain grabs the back of your calf and yanks you out of sleep like someone reached into your leg and pulled a wire tight. You throw off the covers, you stand up, you hobble around the bedroom trying to stretch it out, and slowly, it lets go. You lie back down, rub the muscle, and tell yourself the same thing you told yourself last week. Must be dehydration. Must be old age. Must just be how it is now. Here is what I need you to hear before we go any further. That cramp is not a random glitch. It is a signal. And in a huge number of the patients I see over 50, that signal points to one specific, correctable, almost never tested mineral. Not calcium. Not potassium, though we will talk about that one too. Magnesium. And by the end of this video, I am going to show you exactly why that cramp connects to something most people never see coming, something that goes well beyond a bad night's sleep. Stay with me, because the last piece of this is the one that almost nobody puts together until it is explained to them once, clearly. I'm Sam Waterling. I've spent 15 years in clinical practice watching people write off real, correctable symptoms as just aging, when the answer was sitting quietly on their medication list the entire time. This channel exists because there is no billing code for a 15-minute conversation about a mineral, and somebody has to have it. If you're new here, subscribe to Dr. Waterling and hit that like button. We are working toward 300,000 subscribers, and every one of you helps somebody else find this before they end up in an emergency room after a fall that never had to happen. Now let's get into it. Let me start with a number that should stop you for a second. Magnesium deficiency is common in older adults and has been associated with reduced muscle functionality and several age-related diseases. And when researchers actually look at how widespread this is, the picture gets uncomfortable fast. Globally, an estimated 2.4 billion people, roughly 31% of the global population, fail to meet recommended magnesium intake levels. Among older adults specifically, the numbers are even higher. Studies looking at elderly patients in clinical settings have found that out of 384 participants, 174, that's 45%, were found to have deranged magnesium levels. Close to half. And here is the part that makes this dangerous instead of just inconvenient. Approximately 50 to 60% of magnesium in the body is stored in bone. Less than 1% is found in blood serum, where it is held in a homeostatic range. So your blood panel can come back looking completely normal while your muscles, your nerves, and your heart are all running on a deficit. That is exactly why so many people walk around with a mineral deficiency nobody has ever told them they have. And that is also the open question I want you to hold onto right now, because we are going to come back to what that hidden deficit is actually doing to your heart. That part matters more than most people realize. First, let's talk about the mechanism, and I promise to keep this in plain language. Every single muscle contraction in your body, from your calf to your heart, depends on a careful electrical exchange between calcium and magnesium at the cellular level. Calcium tells the muscle fiber to contract. Magnesium tells it to relax and reset afterward. Think of calcium as the gas pedal and magnesium as the brake. When you have enough magnesium, the muscle fires when you need it to and then lets go cleanly. When magnesium runs low, calcium keeps signaling the muscle to fire with nothing properly breaking that signal. The fiber stays locked in a contraction it cannot release on its own. That is a cramp. That is also, on a smaller scale, the twitching you might notice in your eyelid or your calf as you're falling asleep. Different intensity, same broken braking system. Now let me walk you through why this becomes so much more common after 50, because it is not one cause. It is several things stacking on top of each other at the same time. Chronic magnesium deficiency in older adults can be due to insufficient dietary magnesium intake, reduced intestinal absorption, increased urinary excretion due to reduced kidney function, and the use of medications that enhance magnesium excretion or reduce absorption, such as diuretics and proton pump inhibitors. Your gut absorbs magnesium less efficiently as you age. Your kidneys, which are responsible for holding onto magnesium and not flushing it out, become less efficient at conserving it. You can eat exactly the same diet you ate 20 years ago and still end up with meaningfully less magnesium in your system, purely because of those two shifts happening quietly in the background. And then there is the third factor, the one that catches almost everybody off guard. Common medications quietly drain magnesium out of your body. Diuretics prescribed for blood pressure push your kidneys to release more fluid, and magnesium goes out along with that fluid. Proton pump inhibitors, the acid-reducing medications many people take daily for reflux, reduce how much magnesium your gut can absorb in the first place. If you are on either of those long-term, and a large number of people over 50 are on at least one of them, your magnesium needs go up exactly as your body's ability to hold onto magnesium goes down. Nobody schedules a conversation about that at a routine follow-up. There usually isn't time in a 15-minute visit. I want to tell you about a patient I'll call Diane. 61 years old, active, walked 3 miles most mornings, no major health complaints on paper. She came in because for about 4 months she had been waking up 2, sometimes 3 times a night with cramps in her calves so intense she described them as feeling like her muscle was trying to tear itself apart. She had already tried the things everyone tries, more water during the day, a banana before bed, stretching before sleep. None of it made a real difference. She also mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that her hands sometimes shook slightly when she held a coffee cup first thing in the morning, that she had been more irritable than usual, and that twice in the last 2 months she had felt her heart do something she described as a flutter or a skip, lasting a few seconds, then gone. She had chalked all of it up to stress and getting older. When I looked at her medication list, she had been on a thiazide diuretic for mild high blood pressure for 6 years, and an acid reducer for reflux for almost as long. 2 magnesium-draining medications, taken together, for years, with nobody ever checking her magnesium status in that entire time. Her routine blood magnesium came back technically within the normal range, low normal, which is exactly the trap I described earlier. Older adults may have an intracellular magnesium deficit even when total serum magnesium remains unchanged. A red blood cell magnesium test, which reflects what is actually stored inside your cells rather than just what is floating in your serum, told a very different story. She was significantly depleted. We worked with her prescribing physician to adjust her regimen, added a well-absorbed magnesium supplement at an appropriate dose, and within about 3 weeks her nighttime cramps had dropped from several times a week to almost never. The hand tremor eased. The heart flutter stopped entirely. No surgery, no emergency. Just a mineral nobody had thought to check. Now I need to talk about why this matters so much more than a bad night's sleep, because the consequences reach further than your calf muscle. This is the part of the video I most want you to sit with. In adults 65 years of age and older, falls are the leading cause of injury-related death. Not heart disease in that specific category, not cancer, falls. Over 14 million, or 1 in 4 older adults, report falling every year. And here is the connection almost nobody draws. A cramp or sudden muscle spasm that hits you while you are standing, or that wakes you mid-stride on your way to the bathroom at 3 a.m., is a completely plausible trigger for a fall. You are already navigating in the dark, already groggy, already less steady on your feet than during the day. Add a sudden, involuntary muscle seizure into that mix and you have the exact recipe for a hip fracture that changes the entire trajectory of somebody's independence. Nearly all patients with hip fractures resulting from falls are hospitalized, with most estimates citing over 95% of hip fractures resulting from falls. Magnesium is not marketed as a fall prevention mineral, but functionally, through muscle control, nerve signaling, and its role in balance, it belongs in that conversation. And now here is the piece I promised you at the beginning. The one that connects the cramp to something most people never see coming. Magnesium is directly involved in regulating your heart's electrical rhythm, the same braking mechanism we talked about in your calf, just happening inside your heart muscle instead. Low magnesium has been linked to a higher risk of certain heart rhythm disturbances, including atrial fibrillation, the irregular heartbeat where blood can pool, clots can form, and those clots can travel to the brain. Magnesium also plays a direct role in bone remodeling, working alongside calcium and vitamin D, and in regulating how your body uses insulin, which affects blood sugar control. One mineral. 4 completely different systems depending on it quietly in the background: your muscles, your heart rhythm, your bones, and your blood sugar. That is why a deficiency that sounds as minor as a leg cramp deserves more attention than it usually gets. Be honest with yourself for a second. When was the last time you actually counted how many nights in a month a cramp woke you up? Most people just absorb it as background noise and move on. Here is how to tell whether this is worth a real conversation with your doctor, not just a supplement purchase. Muscle cramps or spasms that are frequent, meaning several times a week, not once in a blue moon. Persistent muscle twitching, especially in your eyelid, calf, or hands, that doesn't go away after a few days. Unexplained fatigue combined with any of the above. New or worsening restless legs at night, that uncomfortable crawling or aching sensation that makes you want to move your legs constantly when you lie down. And this next one matters most: any episode of your heart racing, fluttering, or skipping beats, especially if it lasts more than a few seconds or happens more than once. That symptom on its own, regardless of what is causing it, deserves prompt medical evaluation, not a wait-and-see approach. I am not saying magnesium is the cause of every irregular heartbeat. I am saying it belongs on the list of things a doctor should be checking, particularly if you are on a diuretic or an acid reducer. Here is something practical you can do right now, before your next appointment. First, look back at the last month. Roughly how many nights did a leg or foot cramp wake you up? 0 to 1 is unremarkable. 3 or more a week is worth flagging. Second, sit quietly for 2 minutes and pay attention to your eyelid, then the muscles of your hand. Small, repetitive twitching that you notice more than occasionally is worth mentioning. Third, think about your medication list. Are you on a diuretic for blood pressure? An acid reducer like omeprazole or a similar medication, taken regularly for more than a few months? Those 2 answers alone should shape how urgently you bring this up. Fourth, and this one requires real honesty, think back over the past few months. Has your heart ever fluttered, raced, or skipped in a way that caught your attention, even briefly? If the answer is yes to that last one, please do not sit on it. Call your doctor. Now let's talk about what actually helps, starting with food, because for most people with a mild to moderate gap, food is the first and safest place to close it. Leafy greens are the foundation. Spinach and Swiss chard carry meaningful amounts of magnesium, and the chlorophyll that gives them their color is actually built around a magnesium atom at its core, which is a nice piece of biology to know. Pumpkin seeds are one of the richest everyday sources of magnesium available, alongside almonds and cashews. Legumes, black beans, chickpeas, and lentils contribute meaningfully and also bring fiber along with them, which supports the digestive system that has to absorb all of this in the first place. A diet rich in magnesium-containing foods, whole grains, vegetables, nuts, and legumes, is recommended to mitigate frailty and age-related decline in muscle mass and performance. Whole grains like oats and brown rice retain far more magnesium than their refined counterparts, since much of the mineral content is stripped away during processing. And dark chocolate, in moderation, genuinely contributes real magnesium, which is one of the more pleasant facts in nutrition. The recommended dietary allowance for adults in the United States is approximately 420 mg per day for men and 320 mg per day for women, yet large proportions of the population fail to meet these levels, with national nutrition surveys consistently documenting inadequate intake. Most people fall short from diet alone, which is exactly why deficiency is so widespread even among people who think they are eating reasonably well. If diet alone is not closing the gap, and this is a conversation to have with your doctor rather than a decision to make alone, especially if you have kidney disease or take heart medications, magnesium supplements come in several forms, and the form matters. Magnesium oxide is the cheapest and most common form on pharmacy shelves, but it is also the most poorly absorbed and the most likely to cause digestive upset. Magnesium citrate, glycinate, and malate are absorbed considerably better and tend to be gentler on the stomach. Magnesium glycinate in particular is often favored for sleep and muscle-related symptoms specifically because it tends to cause less digestive disturbance than other forms. The right form and the right dose depends on your kidney function, your other medications, and your specific symptoms, which is exactly why this conversation belongs with your doctor or pharmacist, not just a label on a shelf. There are 3 practical habits worth building alongside the food piece. First, if you are on a diuretic or a long-term acid reducer, ask specifically for a magnesium check at your next blood draw, and ask whether a red blood cell magnesium test makes more sense than a standard serum test. As we covered, a normal serum result can still hide a real deficiency. Second, spread your magnesium-rich foods across the day rather than trying to eat them all at once, since your body absorbs smaller, steady amounts more efficiently than one large dose. Third, if nighttime cramps are a regular problem, a gentle calf stretch before bed, standing with your hands against a wall, one leg extended straight behind you, heel flat on the floor, held for 20 to 30 seconds on each side genuinely helps some people reduce how often the cramp fires in the first place, independent of what is happening with their mineral levels. This approach of recommending a diet rich in magnesium-containing foods is supported by evidence to mitigate age-related decline in muscle mass and performance. The stretch costs nothing and takes under 2 minutes. Before we close, I want to be completely clear about something. Magnesium is not a cure-all, and I am not telling you to walk into a pharmacy today and start megadosing supplements on your own. Too much magnesium, particularly in people with reduced kidney function, can cause its own problems, including dangerously low blood pressure and heart rhythm disturbances, which is the exact opposite of what we are trying to achieve. This video exists to help you recognize a pattern and bring an informed, specific question to your doctor, not to replace that conversation. If you are on a blood pressure medication, a diuretic, or an acid reducer, and you have been dealing with cramps, twitching, or any episode of heart flutter, the specific thing to say at your next visit is this: can we check my magnesium level, and given the medications I'm on, should we look at red blood cell magnesium rather than just a standard serum test? That one sentence can save you months, sometimes years, of chalking up real symptoms to just getting older. Here's something I genuinely want to know from you: because it shapes what I cover next. How old are you, and are you currently on a diuretic or a daily acid reducer? Drop both in the comments. It tells me a lot about where most of you actually are, and I want the next video to speak directly to that. And if this raised a question for you about your heart rhythm specifically, the video on stroke warning signs and atrial fibrillation is the one to watch next. I will link it right here. The connection between what we covered today and what is in that video is one you will want to understand. Your body does not cramp at 3 in the morning for no reason. It is not a design flaw. It is a signal, the same way every symptom we talk about on this channel is a signal. And once you know how to read it, you stop guessing and start actually fixing the right thing. Subscribe to Dr. Waterling if you haven't yet, hit like, and I will see you in the next one.